everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 16th, 2020 school committee meeting. Per Governor Baker's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, the public will not be allowed to physically access this school committee meeting. Members of the public can access the meeting via live stream and the link is on the agenda. In addition, the event will be rebroadcasted on the local cable access channel. The school committee reserves the right to implement additional remote participation procedures and will notify the public of these procedures as soon as practicable. Okay, so can we have the approval of well, first let's do roll call to see who's here. All right, Mrs. Downing. Okay.
Here.
Mrs. Gomes.
Here.
Mr. DeTerra.
Yeah.
Mr. Sumner. Not yet, right? I think he's logging in soon. Okay, so he will be joining us momentarily. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the school committee minutes of April 29th?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the school committee minutes of May 12th?
So moved. Second.
And a motion to approve the executive session minutes of April 24th, not to be released.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All right. And lastly, a motion to approve all payroll and warrants.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, and regarding delegation, this would normally be the time that we would have delegates come up and make a public comment. So if you could go ahead and send any questions or comments that you have to Kelly Benavides at acushnetschools.us. Kelly will go ahead and momentarily, she'll keep checking their emails, and if she has anything, she will let us know. All right, so typically we don't have any old business, so we would go to new business. We would go to the superintendent's report. However, we are going to take the Pride Awards out of order. It's my understanding that we have some excited parents that are probably watching and some kids. So this is something that the school committee sponsors every year. It's very exciting, and sorry, we're gonna miss it live this year. But Dr. Bailey, we have a nice presentation, correct?
Yeah, I believe Mrs. Sylvia will lead us in that presentation tonight.
Yes.
Good evening and welcome to the 2020 Acushnet Public Schools Pride Awards. Each year, the school committee recognizes one student from each grade level at both the elementary and middle schools who, through the selection by their teachers, best represents the following attributes. The recipients of this award all display a positive attitude. They are respectful of peers and staff. They have the initiative to do well. They are dependable and enthusiastic.
I am honored to be the one to present our Preschool Pride Award to Mika Pius. Mika is an outstanding student and exhibits all the characteristics essential for receiving this award. Mika has distinctively shown a positive attitude toward his learning and our school. He is always eager to learn and engage in classroom activities. He displays a sense of pride when he masters a skill and looks forward to something new being taught. Mika is a determined little guy and quickly gained the initiative to master every academic goal given. Not only has Mika proved to have the initiative to do his very best academically, he's exemplary when it comes to citizenship, caring, and respect. Mika shows respect towards his teachers and others at all times. He is respectful towards the feelings of his classmates, and he is always kind, considerate, and caring. He is always willing to lend a helping hand to his classmates and teachers. He has a positive attitude towards his classmates and teachers and school at all times. He possesses strength of character and the courage to do what is right. Mika has demonstrated all that the Pride Award stands for and has displayed these amazing character traits at such a young age. Perseverance, responsibility, integrity, dedication, and excellence. Mika Paiva, I am glad to have been a part of your preschool years at Acushnet Elementary School, and I look forward to seeing you to continue to be an amazing citizen. Love, Mrs. Cosmo.
Hi, Aaliyah. I know you're listening to this. You may not be able to see me, but I just want to tell you how proud I am of you for earning the Pride Award. I have here your name, Aaliyah, and I know that you always try your best. You love to learn. You exceed expectations and never gives up. And you have an amazing personality. I'm so proud of you for doing the work that you did this year in kindergarten, and I wish you the best. Take care. Bye.
Hi, Liberty. I'm so honored and proud to present the Wildcat Award to you. I think of receiving the Pride Award as a great success for all the young learners who we are honoring in this presentation. I think Oprah Winfrey explains the key to success in a great way. She says, the key is not to worry about being successful, but instead work toward being significant, and the success will naturally follow. Liberty, you have been significant in the lives of your classmates, teachers, friends, and family this year. Your significance in our lives greatly impacted each of us in a way that words could never explain. Whether it was helping a classmate to complete a difficult task or supporting a friend who was sad at recess. Your significance was felt when you were almost always the first one to help your teachers to clean up because it was the right thing to do. Liberty, keep being the significant you that you are. I know that success will follow you throughout your academic journey. To me, you are a great success. I am blessed and filled with Wildcat pride to have witnessed your journey in first grade. Congratulations, Liberty, on the success of earning the Pride Award this year.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zachary Coelho, and I am here to present Brayden Tracey with the 2020 Second Grade Pride Award. I first met Brayden last June when a group of sweaty, rambunctious, soon-to-be second graders came bounding down the hall to meet their new teacher before heading off for the summer. Like usual, I noticed the squirmy ones, a few chitter-chatters, some asked questions, some giggled with each other, and a couple wandered around a bit, but they were all perfect in every way to me. Brayden was not a part of the aforementioned categories, yet stood out from the crowd right away. With his quiet self, that was when I first met him, of course, he listened patiently, followed all of the common rules, and was very well-mannered. Then, once it was his turn to talk, he wasn't afraid to show his outgoing personality at all. A couple of months later, when the new school year began, I wondered if Brayden's demeanor would remain the same as I had remembered, or if he was just putting on a good show for his new second grade teacher that day. But as a matter of fact, right from the very first day of school, he was even more delightful with each passing day. I witnessed so many of his good qualities. This young man is witty, polite, smart, hardworking, talented, funny, caring, responsible, friendly, outgoing, and very deserving of this year's Pride Award. P is for Brayden's positive attitude. He has an uplifting outlook on life. If it is too rainy to go outside for recess, he will say, well, at least the plants will be growing. If he can't find one of his gloves, he says, "At least I have my other one." Any challenges he faces, he gives it his all, doesn't back down or complain about it. He overcomes it and learns from it. Therefore, he sets a good example for others and reminds them to stay positive and believe in themselves. R. R is for the respect Brayden shows to everyone at school. He is cooperative, fair, and patient, especially when working in small groups and partnerships, which is not always easy if you end up with a group of bosses. He shows his peers compassion when they need it most and cheers up team players with his good sportsmanship. He sets a good example for his peers of how people should be treated with respect, no matter what. I is for initiative. Brayden is responsible and takes the initiative to do well. He cares about his schoolwork and makes it a priority. He does his work. He is on top of his classroom job. He takes out his catch-up folder if he finishes something early instead of wasting time. He sets a good example for the class to be active members of the community and takes responsibility for their learning. D is for dependable. Brayden is dependable. He is my gentle reminder of what time it is when lessons are running close to specialty or dismissal, or which specialty we even have each day. I can count on him to pass in his homework on time, follow classroom routines and rules, and help anyone around him in need. Whether it's spelling a word, tying a shoe, lending a listening ear, or explaining how to play a game. Brayden sets a good example for his peers to show that being dependable is a nice way to help others, and it keeps you on track. E is for enthusiastic. Brayden is certainly enthusiastic. Whether it is reading, math, science, writing, or the arts, Brayden puts all his positive energy into it. He is inquisitive and asks questions about the subject matter. He celebrates his new learning and proves he wants to master everything he can by working hard at it, sometimes even while humming a catchy tune or even breaking out into a quick dance. He can be very entertaining. Brayden sets an example for those of all ages to show that having fun, being happy, staying positive, and showing enthusiasm can better the lives of others as well as your own. Brayden, you should take great honor in this award and be proud of yourself. Although it is unfortunate that the circumstances we are in cannot allow an in-person celebration of your integrity, it does not minimize your accomplishments. Brayden, you are amazing, and I am proud to have been part of your second grade experience. Congratulations, you are the 2020 Second Grade Pride Award winner. You can do your victory dance now.
Hi, this is Mrs. Carroll, grade 3. When I think about choosing a student for the Pride Award each year, I see who it is that pops into my mind first. Some years there isn't anyone that is a clear picture in my mind. This year, however, Zachary Coelho instantly popped into my mind. Zachary is everything a Pride Award recipient should be. From the first day of school, I could tell that Zachary was a kind, polite, and respectful person. As I got to know him as a student, he proved to be very conscientious, hardworking, and responsible. He cared deeply about his work and strived to always do his best. I could partner him to work with anyone, and he was always welcoming and cooperative. He was definitely a positive presence in the classroom. Zachary Coelho is truly deserving of this award, and I am proud to have been his teacher. His parents should be very proud of the young man they are raising. He is a wonderful person. Congratulations, Zachary.
The young lady I'm about to honor, Miss Morgan Paiva, had a difficult time believing in herself this year. It took a long time to build up just the slightest of confidence. I hope that by accepting this award, she will see in herself what I have seen all along. Morgan is definitely the silent type, and it may take a while to leave her shell. But once she becomes more comfortable, her positive attitude cannot be quelled. To the teachers and the staff, Miss Morgan has always been respectful and polite. But the way she interacts with peers is what centers her in that spotlight. Morgan is very conscientious and strives day after day to do her best. Her initiative to do well never fails, no matter how difficult the test. This young lady has been dependable throughout the duration of our year, making only the best of choices, a true role model to her peers. Morgan's enthusiasm for our Spirit Days is where her personality really shines. She doesn't hesitate to participate and gets decked out to the nines. Morgan, you are a very special person, and I want you to know that you are so deserving of this acknowledgement. Congratulations, kiddo.
Hello. It is the fifth grade team's pleasure to announce Audrey Pacheco as this year's Pride Award winner. When it was time to choose a student, Audrey was a quick and unanimous choice. I decided to go with a good old-fashioned acrostic poem to explain why Audrey deserves this honor. Let's start with A. A is for awesome. Audrey is an awesome role model for her classmates in class and on Zoom meetings. She always participated and always added a little something extra on the Zoom meetings. U is for understanding. Audrey always understands what is expected of her the first time it is asked, and she was always so understanding when I would mix up her name in class, too. D. D is for dedicated. Audrey was such a dedicated student during remote learning. She was a rock star, always completing her work on time and never forgetting to do anything. R is for reading. Audrey loves to read, and I was always excited to see what her latest choices were, especially when she was rereading a trilogy for the love of the story. She was always carrying at least one book with her, and I would always look forward to see what title she was reading next. One time I saw it was a book from the Divergent trilogy, and I told her we should discuss the book after she was done. Audrey just smiled and said, "Oh, I've already read this series. I'm just rereading it again." E is for eager. Audrey always exhibited an eagerness to learn, whether she was at home or in the classroom. And finally, Y is for the yonder, meaning we know that her future is full of great things. Audrey was a joy to teach, and the fifth grade is excited to see her continue to grow and excel in the future as she continues through her education here at Ford Middle School. We'll miss you, Audrey, and congratulations.
It is with pleasure that the sixth grade team awards Claudia Pacheco the 2019-2020 Ford Middle School Pride Award. As a team, we have been rewarded with this young lady who embodies each aspect of the Pride Award. Claudia was a great pleasure to have in class, and she was always respectful to her teachers and to her peers. Each day, she entered school with a positive attitude and with a smile. She possesses many attributes, such as being trustworthy, a conscientious worker. She is focused, and she is always dependable. Claudia is also a wonderful role model who quite often stepped in as a helpmate to other students in her class. The sixth grade team recognizes that Claudia Pacheco represents the attributes that this award represents: a positive attitude, respectful, the initiative to do well, always dependable, and always enthusiastic. Congratulations, Claudia. On behalf of the sixth grade team, congratulations.
It is with pleasure. It is with pleasure that the seventh grade team honors Derek Oliveira with the Pride Award. Derek is a hardworking and conscientious student who takes pride in his work. Teachers can count on him to be attentive in class and respond in a prompt and appropriate manner. Derek always performs to the best of his ability and has a wonderful creative side that he brings to his work. Derek is a positive role model for his peers. He is respectful, patient, and kind to his classmates, working well in a group or with a partner. It is because of these attributes, pleasant personality, strength of character, and the initiative to do well, that the seventh grade team feels Derek deserves this award. Congratulations, Derek.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Bailey and the Acushnet School Committee for continuing to give this important award, especially in these unconventional times. Pride Awards are given to the students who are the best of the best, and this year's 8th grade award winner certainly fits that category. Kiana Copa has been a model student this entire year. Academically, she's at the top of her class. Every assignment was done with great care and detail, but on those rare occasions when she wasn't perfect, she took it as a challenge and learned from her mistakes. Kiana would happily work with any student. Her leadership skills began to blossom as she became better at leading rather than just doing. When a teacher might accidentally put an extra N in her name, she had a positive, respectful way of informing rather than making a huge deal out of it. Overall, Kiana is the example that we should use when judging recipients of this award. She is going to make us just as proud of her in the future as we are right now. Congratulations to all of this evening's Pride awardees, but especially Kiana. Good luck in high school. The whole town is rooting for you.
All done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. So congratulations, everyone. So proud of all of you. So for anyone that might be watching at home, you are more than welcome to stay on and watch the rest of our meeting, and you are just as more than welcome to sign off. So thank you very much for being here. All right, so Dr. Bailey, we will go back to the agenda and start with you for personnel matters.
Yep, I'm actually going to skip that one for a minute because I think the Pride Awards is a great segue into my COVID-19 update and remote learning with Acushnet Public Schools. First of all, that was a great example of the professional development that our teachers have experienced on a weekly basis to provide those experiences and opportunities for our students during their remote learning at home. So they've been learning all kinds of different pathways to teach the students remotely, electronically, and they've learned, and you saw the different formats with the different teachers. Some just did a voiceover, some had their picture, some had words with it. But I really want to commend our teachers who taught each other, quite frankly. We learned from each other and we learned together. So, you know, COVID, it's been a very challenging time. And if that wasn't enough to deal with, now we have the issue of racism going on in our country. And I just want to let you know that we are looking at that seriously, and we will be addressing that within the district. And I will be sending out some resources for families so people can talk about these issues with their child or children. But in terms of the update regarding remote learning in the fall, I will be sending families an update as soon as I know more. The commissioner did send out an initial guideline or guidance for summer, and to help us begin to order things that we may need in the district in terms of PPE, masks, anything like that, dividers. So we are working on that in terms of spending down the budget for things that we will need in the fall. But that guidance is not expected out for another week or two from the state. So as soon as we get that guidance, we will see and act upon it as a district. And I will be in touch with our staff so that they will know what's going on immediately and we can start planning. I think it's going to be a summer like no other, to be honest, in terms of our planning for the fall. But I just wanted to let people know that it's a different time, and it's very possible that we could have a hybrid model going on in the fall, which could mean that we have students coming in for various times and then some students at home and vice versa, just to comply with the social distancing requirements. Does anybody have any questions for me regarding COVID-19 or remote learning that's taken place? I just want to reiterate how proud I am of our students, families, and staff, because it was a lot to deal with in these uncertain times. Everybody had their own things going on, and on top of that, little did we know that on March 13th, we wouldn't be returning to school for the rest of the school year. And I want to say I saw people adapting and doing what they had to do for our students. And I'm so proud of the work that's been done, and we will continue to strengthen it as we move forward. But if anybody has any questions, comments, I'd be interested in hearing it. Anything? Okay. All right, with that being said, I'm going to move on to personnel matters. In your package, you have a personnel report. Since our last meeting, we have hired 2 new staff members, temporary summer help. And in full disclosure, the first person, Craig Demers, on the list, he is my nephew. And I did look up the policy regarding ethics and conflict of interest. So in full transparency, I wanted to let you know, but there isn't a conflict in the sense that I am not responsible for his evaluation. You know, that's within our policies that someone related to someone could not supervise them. But he's summer help. He just graduated from Roger Williams. He's an Acushnet resident. He graduated from Ford Middle School as well, and he's going to Northeastern in the fall. But I just, again, wanted to be transparent that he was a relative of mine. And then we had 1 resignation. We did not have any terminations. We had 2 layoffs because of the budget times that we're in, 2 paras. And then we had 2 teachers, because of some movement with the numbers of students, we had 2 teachers transfer to different grade levels based on the needs. Does anybody have any questions regarding the personnel report? Okay. The next thing that we need to talk about is, I'd like the committee to take a vote. We discussed this in the budget subcommittee, but we'd like to put $50,000 in the special ed stabilization fund. That article was not done this year due to some of the priorities, and that fund is utilized as needed. And as you know, special ed costs can certainly wipe that out at any time. So we figured if we could at least get $50,000 in what's left in our budget, if the committee votes to do that, then the town will be putting that money, that leftover $50,000, into the fund. And I don't know if, Mrs. Flynn, if you want to add anything to that, but that's, okay, that's the vote that we'd be looking to take, but that was something that we discussed during our budget subcommittee meeting, because it would help our school district as well. We do have some savings this year because we were out of school. So for example, we didn't use substitutes. We have some savings with transportation, et cetera. So we'd like to put $50,000 into that fund, and it's like a savings account for special education.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions before we go to a vote? No? All right. And we're moving that out of the regular budget, Paula, so it's a motion out of the regular school committee budget.
So I think,
the school.
Mrs. Flynn, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it needs to say, the motion needs to be made that the leftover money left in the budget, $50,000, will be moved from the local budget to the Special Education Stabilization Fund. Is that correct, Mrs. Flynn?
I'm not sure what the exact motion needs to say,
Yeah.
but that's the idea. That
Okay.
the idea is that we will leave 50,000 in the local budget,
Yep.
with the understanding that the town will put that into the Special Ed Stabilization Fund.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Can I have a motion to leave 50,000 in the local budget to transfer, for the town to transfer into our Special Education Stabilization Fund?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, all set.
Okay. I'm going to skip over the last one, the next one, and go to the retirement recognition. Sue Campina Beck, our elementary school principal, is retiring. And I want to publicly thank her for her commitment and dedication to our district and our school, especially the elementary school. I know that over the years, she's done quite a bit of work on curriculum and has great relationships with our families and staff. But she couldn't be here this evening, so she asked me if I would read her commentary on this. So if you just bear with me for a few minutes. Dear school committee members, I am unable to be in attendance this evening. However, I wanted to publicly express my appreciation to the school governing board for recognizing my retirement. I also wanted to acknowledge your steadfastness in ensuring that the Acushnet Public School strives towards greatness. By greatness, I am not referring to political rhetoric. I am referring to an education mindset that embraces excellence in providing sound academic, social, emotional, and physical educational experiences, even and especially during difficult times. I am very grateful that I was a part of this experience as the AES principal from 2014 to 2020 and as the vice principal curriculum coordinator in 2008 to 2009. I hope the very best for the school district and local community. With best regards, Mrs. Beck. And I would like to say the same, that we all wish her the best in her retirement. We obviously wish her a very happy and healthy retirement as she's able to enjoy this next chapter. I don't know if anybody has anything to add to that. Okay.
No?
Luck. Thank you for all you've
Yeah.
done.
Excellent, thank you. And at this time, the last thing on my report tonight is the AES audit. And if you remember, we did a curriculum audit earlier in the year for Ford Middle School, and we had Dr. Roy come and present, and we're going to do something very similar right now as Dr. Roy is joining us via the Zoom. So good evening, Dr. Roy.
Good evening.
And I say you're able to share your screen and take it away, but I know the committee has a copy of the report, the full report, as well as the PowerPoint. And I'm sure that we have staff members who are watching this, so I'm happy to have people watch this important information because this is really going to lead us in our next direction.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bailey. You can all see my screen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, this is, very similar to what we did with Ford Middle School. The PowerPoint really complements the report that you have in front of you and gives me a chance to talk about specifics, to provide a larger context to what you have in the report. So just again, we started this the same, very similar with Ford Middle School, just providing some background knowledge, where when we were all together in the beginning of the year and we were looking at MCAS data. We have no MCAS data this year. So just taking a quick look is the interesting things. This is for grades 3 and 4 for the elementary school. You see ELA really exceeding expectations, that Acushnet Elementary School exceeds the state by like 5 points, but yet math is equivalent with the state, right? So you see that significant performance in ELA. Math isn't quite as strong. I think that will be interesting to keep in mind as we go through the rest of this audit. And then as you see at the bottom, the not meeting expectations, of course, you guys are performing much better than the state in terms of the percentage of kids who are not meeting expectations. Again, similar to Ford Middle School, I looked at really two things. This was not an analysis of their teaching practices in any way. This was an audit to look at the rigor of their assessments and the resources that they're using. So again, my conversation last time was teachers are only as good as the resources that you provide them. So I was looking at those particular resources in terms of assessments and what they're using to plan from. So they provided assessments to me. I had samples of assessments and end of unit assessments that they were using, as well as some of their curriculum resources. And I can tell you, in addition to that, the survey, just like with Ford Middle School, the survey, when you hear the teacher voice, that really helps provide the context for what I was seeing in the data as well. So let's just begin quickly with assessments. If you recall, this is the same slide that I used last time. This framework, the depth of knowledge, DOK stands for depth of knowledge. You're looking at the rigor of the task. Level 1 is a sort of that recall kind of task. Level 2, you're getting to some conceptual understanding. Level 3 is that strategic thinking, you're beginning to reason. And level 4, which we don't see often in MCAS items, is this idea of extended thinking. So if we take a look, I'm just providing examples for you it's not in the report, but it's in the PowerPoint. These are just simple examples of what a DOK level 1 would be for an MCAS item. These are MCAS items I'm showing you right now. So like that first problem, what is 138? 138 rounded to the nearest 10. It's pretty simple, right? It's just sort of kind of a calculation. The next one, the level 2 one, you see there's a conceptual understanding. It's not about computing anymore, right? It's not about can you divide 56 divided by 7, but can you understand how division is in a word problem? So you see the difference in levels there, right? So it's a higher level of understanding. It's not about computation, much bigger than that. And then here's just an example of a level 3. There's multiple ways. There's part A, there's part B. There's multiple things for kids to consider. There's a lot of problem solving. There's not a straight, narrow path on how to do this. Kids could do this problem in multiple ways. So just some results from what the teachers were reporting to me, that they were using the assessment resources from their math program and Visions for the primary resource for K to 3. And it was a secondary resource for grade 4. Grade 4 tends to use kind of like their self-generated use of self-generated assessments based on the mass curriculum frameworks. As far as how often they collaborated with each other, they're averaging about a 2.24, where 1 is never, 4 is regularly. 3 teachers reported a 1, 17 reported a 2, and 9 teachers reported a 3, and 1 teacher reported a 4. So that data was just in general. It wasn't just for math or ELA. It was just sort of in general. So I was just kind of throwing that up here again, just for some context. But going back to the math piece of it, this might be the better graph to look at. This is not in your report. It is a slightly different graph. What you see here is in grades 3 and 4 anyway for MCAS, for mathematics, about 28% of the problems were rated as a DOK, depth of knowledge level 1. And then what I have is that sample, the same kind of statistics across grade spans for grades 3 and 4, and then K to 2. So you see a bit of a disparity, right? Like there are a greater percentage of level 1 questions being administered from Acushnet Elementary School than what you would see in MCAS. So this is what we sort of look at for the rigor of assessments. If we were aligned perfectly to MCAS, then you would see the bars to look very much like the left, and they don't necessarily. This is very much what we saw when we did the same thing for Ford Middle School, if you remember that far back. It's very similar. We see all kinds of levels, right? We see a lot of DOK 2s, a little bit of DOK 3, but there's a larger emphasis on the DOK 1s. ELA, I'm just showing some examples for you. Grade 3, ELA, a level 1, this is just about sequence, what happened first, what happened second, what happened next, kind of a basic problem. But in ELA, as you go to DOK level 2, there's more inference involved. Based on the passage, what does the sentence show about the whales? It's not an answer that you can just go and find. You have to do some inference, you have to do some interpretation, right? It's not a right there answer. DOK level 3, usually questions that are asking kids really this part B, which sentence from the passage best supports the answer to part A? So it's not enough just to get the answer to part A. You have to say, where's the evidence in the text? And that's a big push in the Common Core. So this is the kind of rigor, right? These become much more, this is the kind of rigor that MCAS uses to assess the curriculum frameworks and the knowledge of kids. DOK level 4, I couldn't find a release item for a DOK level 4. That's usually when you have to compare multiple texts. However, they're there, they're just not released. So I didn't want to trick anybody about that, especially if there's any teachers looking at this. There are, even though they're not released items, there are some DOK level 4. For example, write a paragraph that compares the main ideas of the article and the story. So kids have to make connections across multiple texts. So when we look at our data here, it's not bad. It's not quite as rigorous as grades 3 and 4 MCAS, but there, you know, especially that level, the grade span 4, 3, and 4 is somewhat close. You see a variety of DOK levels, some level 1s, a lot of level 2s, some level 3s, and I think I only found a level 4. I think it's actually was in a kindergarten assessment, believe it or not. And so, yeah, slightly behind in the rigor, neither here or there, but there is some slight differential. Probably not as strong as the math differential, but there is a slight differential. So teacher feedback for improvement on assessment was, and this theme is going to run for curriculum as well, vertical alignment. The teachers are saying that. They want to make sure that those assessments are vertically aligned across grade levels and do contain what they're calling all question types, multiple choice, short answers, and open response, which could correlate well with the DOK levels. There were some comments about making sure the report card also aligns with those assessments as well. That's a big undertaking. I just put that in there because that comment came up more than one time. Teachers also were asking for more collaboration time to collaborate with their colleagues to ensure that particular alignment. And another keys that teachers were calling for is they need resources. I think the teachers are well aware that their resources may be out of date. So for example, those envisioned resources that they are using for assessments is really a lower level of knowledge, really a DOK level. And I think teachers certainly recognize that, and they are looking for those resources to help them with those assessments. So before I move on to curriculum, are there any questions on the assessment piece? Okay. The high quality resources now, when we look at the curriculum, this should be familiar. I used mostly ed reports because the main curricula that the elementary school is using, Envisions for Math, Reading Street for ELA, Foundations for ELA, for foundational reading skills, those were evaluated by ed reports. So they're going to, that's very extensive. So what I'm pulling from you is the summary of those, of the ed reports there, and what the ed reports, that national organization that is really auditing and assessing the level of quality of curricular resources has done. And if you recall from the last time, I think what made sense to the committee the last time, the way I described it, there's sort of two domains that you can look at, like the what of learning. Are the resources covering the right what, the standards, are they there? But then there's this idea of the how of learning, and that's your reasoning, your problem solving, and your high cognitive demand tasks, right? So that's, for those of you who don't live in this world, that's probably the easiest way for me to describe it. And so ed reports does sort of look at those two domains. They call them something different, but that's basically it. So before we get into that, some teacher feedback. While we were talking about feedback, it's the same as it was for assessments: vertical alignment, collaboration, additional resources, right? So it's very consistent in what they're saying, in what they need. So when we look at mathematics in particular, Envisions is used as a primary resource for K-3, as a secondary resource for grade 4. you're using a much older, I think it's an older version of Envisions. The old versions of Envisions are not highly rated by Ed Reports. And keeping the idea of the what of learning is not bad. We partially meet the expectations. They kind of are covering the right things, kind of, not completely. But the how of learning, the rigor and the mathematical practices, the problem solving, the discourse, the debate that should be happening in mathematics, the reasoning is not there, right? So that is a really significant problem with that older resource. By the way, there is a new version of Envisions that just came out, and I had a brief conversation with Paula and your new director of curriculum and assessment or instruction, and the newer version, the brand new version, is gets a much better rating than what we're seeing here. So if you kind of keep that in mind. ELA. So ELA wasn't as consistent across what people were using. So kindergarten and grade 1, their primary resource that they're using is Reading Street. And then this is more, when I'm talking about ELA right now, I'm talking about for comprehension purposes, not learning to read. This is more about comprehension. And then some secondary sources kind of varied. Grade 2, they reported, this is a report from the teachers, the model curriculum units, which was developed by DESE a few years ago. I'll talk about that. Grade 3 was pulling from a resource called Storyworks, and grade 4 seems to just sort of use the standards and then pull what they need to pull. So not quite as consistent across the board, even though the teachers did call for that in their feedback. They said, let's make this more consistent. So the reports, so looking at these lists, Ed Reports, I can give you information on Reading Street. I can give you information on foundations. A couple of other things about some of these other ones. The MADSE model curriculum units are not current with the curriculum frameworks. They even say that on the website. Again, that's like an older resource. When the frameworks changed a bit, those units aren't meeting muster right now. They're in the process of producing some new ones, but I think it's more for the upper grade levels. So those units, they were good, those model curriculum units, but they're a bit out of date at this point in time. Storyworks is a subscription from Scholastic, and it has some really good stuff in it. I'm not going to deny that, but it's not necessarily a comprehensive program like a Reading Street. The danger in that is covering all the ELA standards. I mean, ELA is sort of a beast of a curriculum. I put there, you see on the left, all the standards that go with English language arts. So for the reading standards for literature, RL1 to RL10, there's 10 of those. Then there's 10 for reading informational text. Then there's 4 for foundational skills. Then there's your writing. Then you're speaking your language. So just the danger in pulling these supplemental programs like a Storyworks is that it is very hard to make that a comprehensive program that will really hit all of those standards there. So for Reading Street, what does Ed Reports say about Reading Street? Again, you're using an older version. And one of their issues, the what of learning is really about text quality. Are they reading high quality text? And as you see there, what Ed Reports is saying is they do not. They do not meet the expectations. So I had put there on the right just some information that Gateway 1 text quality are answering are quality anchored text at grade level text complexity. Do they represent the rigor and the balance addressed in the standards? And are the tasks and questions in reading, speaking, listening, language aligned to grade level standards? Do they support student learning? So basically the answer, according to Ed Reports, is no. And because they didn't meet that initial criteria, they don't even get a rating in the sort of the Gateway 2, which is more about building knowledge. So again, Reading Street, the version you're using, it's an older curriculum. I don't know exactly when it was purchased, but it's been a while, and it's not aligned with certainly the current frameworks. Fundations. So Fundations is a program that you're also using to teach foundational reading skills. This is to teach kids how to read. And what Ed Reports is saying that it's partially meeting expectations. I can tell you in this Ed Reports, it is every single program that they've evaluated is only at a 2. I haven't seen them rate anything higher than a 2. I can tell you personally, I love Foundations and I think it's one of the better programs out there. So I do want you to feel confident that Foundation, it has a great reputation, even though there's some issues with it. Is one of the issues is it doesn't come with a line decodable practice text, but you can purchase those. There's things you might have to supplement a bit. However, the real strength in Foundations is the systematic, explicit, research-based scope and sequence to learning how to read. Really important for any kid who's a struggling reader, kids with learning disabilities, are really important that you do this. And I think it's a real strength that you continue to use this in those lower grades to teach kids really how to get the words off the page, right? So the reading street is more about the comprehension, but the Foundations is your foundational reading skills. So I haven't seen anything rated higher than this, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Okay. And so this is, science. So I don't have anything as far as ratings for science for you for a couple of reasons. One, there's no NCS test in grades 3 or 4. Secondly is, as you're looking at this slide, there really is no consistency happening right now in science. So every, different grade levels are using a variety of resources. It's not that teachers aren't teaching science standards. I don't want to say that, but there is not a core consistent curriculum resource that teachers are using to pull for science. Okay, so I have a slide with some takeaways, but I can certainly stop and answer any questions. So again, this is similar, right, to the middle school. This isn't all that different. Teachers are well aware of the need for increased vertical alignment, collaboration, and rigorous curricular resources aligned to the Common Core expectations. Especially, I think this is very true in the elementary school. It's time, I would say, budget pending, it is time to update the resources based on what I've presented here. And that's really about number 2. And then the issue that science, this is also not uncommon in elementary schools. I don't want you to think this is uncommon, but it's teachers will need some sort of common resource for science. In elementary schools, it doesn't get the emphasis that reading and math does. That doesn't mean it shouldn't. And there'll need to be some work done to kind of get those resources together as well in that alignment. And that's it, basically, unless you have questions, comments.
I'm not sure if this question is geared towards towards Paula, but when will we see Ms. Stoffel and maybe the 3 of you come together and give the school committee some sort of game plan on what we expect based on the information now that we have from the middle school and the elementary school? Is there some sort of timeline that you can give us at this point, or?
Yes, definitely. First, I'm happy to report that even during a pandemic, our curriculum work and our strategy, our district strategy that we talked about early on continues. We've continued the work. Everyone has continued it. So when we talk about lack of alignment, lack of resources, this is certainly not new information, and we have consistently been working on it. And I will let you know that Dr. Roy, as well as Ms. Stoffel and myself, have gotten together already and started to look at things. So like one example of that, Mrs. Gomes, is that we as a district will be piloting Envision's math program K to 8 for this coming school year, and that's highly rated on Ed Reports. So we've already done some professional development, some very initial professional development for our teaching staff. Even in the middle of a pandemic, they have already gotten a little preview of what's to come with the new Envisions program. It's much more rigorous. We're excited to get that going. And yes, to answer your question, Ms. Stoffel, at the very least, if not joined by Dr. Roy, but definitely will be making a presentation in the fall to let you know where we are at with the curriculum, because that's just one example of what we're doing. There's other examples that I could certainly share, but I would love for it to be in a more formal report in the fall. But the work is definitely continuing. This is evidence that, you know, there was no hiccups with our work with the strategy or the curriculum. We've continued with the work, and this, again, we recognize the need for updated resources as well as alignment, and our teachers understand that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Roy or myself?
No, that was very thorough. Thank you very much.
Yep, I want to thank you, Dr. Roy. I know that we appreciate the work that you've been doing with our district, and just the collaboration, the ongoing collaboration that we've already had to onboard our new director of curriculum has been wonderful. So we'll just continue that into the summer and the fall. So thank you again so much.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, business managers report. Mrs. Flynn, you're on.
Okay, thanks. We'll start with the FY21 budget. So it says Acushnet Public Schools FY21 budget. And if it's in the same order in your documents that is in mine, it should be the first one. So the budget subcommittee met many times during the school closure to refine the budget. If you recall, we started with a budget that was roughly, I believe, over 5% over level funded. So through the course of the last several weeks, we worked with the budget subcommittee and with the town administrator on a budget that we felt the town could bear and was, you know, it was a decent budget for the school. So we are ending at a 2% over level funded increase for our FY21 budget. Now, as you know, we had to make some cuts to achieve that. A lot of it was level funding most, if not all, of the expenditure line of the operating expenditures that we could, other than tuition, transportation, and a few other things. So in that packet, there's a sheet that says increases and decreases summary. So you'll see how the changes from the budget from last year to this year. So the budget increased just under 300,000, which is, again, a 2% increase. Of that, salaries make up 148,000, and these are the COLAs, the step increases, any of the contracted increases to salaries. So salaries, tuition, and transportation, those three categories make up over 100% of the increase, in fact, 116%. So when we really talk about having to reduce the budget, there's very little area for operational expenditures to go to. So you can see that tuition increased as a whole by 90,000, transportation 100,000. Most of that is in special education out of district. We decreased utilities by about 25,000 for anticipated green community savings. The building inspector and the town administrator felt that we would see at least that next year, our first full year. Contracted services was also decreased. Technology contracted services did increase. We did increase special education, and then the school committee contracted services because we're done with the policy work that we were doing with MASC. Professional development, Dr. Roy and Teachers 21, that increased the budget by about 17,000, and then a small amount of supplies decrease, and facilities was level funded. So you can see that of that $293,000 increase, 340,000 of it roughly was salaries, tuition, and transportation. So that meant we had to reduce other lines in the budget by just under 47,000. Now the other sheets that you have breaks down the budget by the Department of Ed function code. So these are familiar to you, so you can see how the budget is broken down. The first page is operational expenditures for all of the Department of Ed categories, and that's how we report our spending to the Department of Ed for their official reports. So you can see there's instructional expenditures broken down, and there's student services expenditures, maintenance, and tuition. So you can see that our operations side, the operational expenditures, increased by about 2.3%. Total increase to the budget was 2%. On the next page, you can see all of our salaries, again broken down by their Department of Ed code, instruction, teaching and learning, paraprofessionals, guidance counselors, psychological services, attendance, medical, food service, which is not included in the budget, student activities, school security, and facilities. So I also included the FTE, the district-wide FTE, and you can see that salaries increased by roughly 1.77%. And in order to achieve this budget, we did have to eliminate 3 positions. Those were 3 paraprofessional positions. One was as we were not filling as a result of a resignation, and unfortunately we had to have 2 layoffs. So that's how we achieved the FY21 budget, which is a 2% increase over last year. Does anybody have any questions on that? No, okay. So the town meeting, which we'll be voting on the budget, is Saturday at 10 a.m. So that's when we will know for sure our school department budget and our townwide budget for next year. The next update I have is from this year's budget, how we're doing with our expenditures for that. As you know, Dr. Bailey mentioned earlier in the presentation that we've had some surpluses that we normally wouldn't have because of any things that just didn't occur, substitute teachers, some professional development courses that didn't take place. So you can see here we've broken down what our surpluses and deficits are and where we're thinking we're going to end the year. So as you know, we just voted to spend $50,000 to send from this budget to increase to special ed stabilization. And the other funds will be used or have already been used to purchase a lot of the things that we're going to need for the fall, such as masks, gloves. We need to purchase some hand sanitizer, some needed supplies for that. We also have purchased about, I believe, to outfit half of the sinks for the touchless faucets, all of the restrooms for the touchless, the toilets that note touchless. We are outfitting the paper towel holders and the soap. We already have the soap dispensers, but the paper towel holders are all touchless. So we've already gotten going on that and made a lot of purchases in that regard. We've also purchased two additional sprayers, disinfectant sprayers. So that way the custodians at night, each one will have one at night so they can make sure to disinfect the buildings nightly. They were sharing it. So once those come in, the night guys will each have their own. And we're also going to be purchasing some curriculum and some curriculum materials, and also hopefully we've already purchased some Chromebooks and we intend to purchase some more. So that's the quick summary of the FY20 budget. Does anybody have any questions on that? No. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the SMEC annual lease agreement. We received this from SMEC Every year they rent a classroom and a small classroom from us. It used to be another space at the elementary school, but they no longer run that program. So right now they're renting one full-size classroom at Ford Middle School and one small classroom also at Ford Middle School. And they will be paying us just over $12,199 for those rentals. And I believe SMEC needs the school committee to vote on this.
Okay. And that's just for this one school year, right? 2020 to 2021?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay.
So I believe they said it was about a 3% increase in the rental.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the SMEC annual lease agreement as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so you're all set, Mrs. Flynn.
Okay, thanks. And my final item of information is the update on the transportation contract. So as you know, for the months of March, well, half of March, April, May, and June, we did not incur expenditures for school buses because the school's being closed. I've been working with Amaral Bus Company to try to work on a settlement as to what's fair, as to what, if anything, they'll be paid during this closure. You know, we've discussed this at other school committee meetings. The Department of Ed recommends that we pay something and negotiate that with our providers. So that's what we have been attempting to do. At the last budget subcommittee meeting, the budget subcommittee recommended that we offer Amaral Bus Company and our van companies 30% payment at 30%, and that's what we have done. I believe Dr. Bailey has an update on that for us. We right now we have not come to an agreement with Amaral Bus.
Right, so since that budget subcommittee meeting, Amaral Bus Company is now working with an attorney who is working with our legal counsel on this agreement. And we're hoping to get an agreement this week. And they know that the school committee was slated to vote on this tonight. But I'm going to ask the committee, because Amaral Bus Company is providing his attorney and with more information than what we received. So what I'm wondering is if we could take a vote on the 30%, but then also take a vote, if you agree with this, to give the district some flexibility if it's within the ballpark of 30%, whatever that is. If it goes beyond the 30%, if we can make that decision this week without having another school committee meeting, because we really only have 2 weeks to spend down the budget, and we really need to come to an agreement, I'm hoping this week, on that transportation contract. Our attorney is very well aware of your wishes in terms of the budget subcommittee discussion and the fact that we have not received any information from the bus company. So right now, our legal counsel is working with their legal counsel to determine what information do you have that can determine a fair settlement. And I guess I would ask to make things easier, if we can vote on the 30%, but also if, with the understanding that if they come back this week and they're within the ballpark of 30%, maybe it's 35%, you know, if we have any flexibility to just accept that, if they provide the district with evidence of payments, let's say, because so far, the reason why we're at 30% is because we have not received any information that we had requested in terms of, did they get COVID aid, you know, drivers laid off, things like that. So that's where we're at. We'd like to keep our options open. But obviously, we know, we're very well aware of the committee's feelings on this, although we haven't taken a vote yet. I do know the recommendation is there from the budget subcommittee. And I guess what I'm asking for, can we have a little wiggle room possibly, or some flexibility should we need it this week? But we would need a vote. So Sarah.
I have a question on this. So
Mhm.
basically, for all the months that we've been with this COVID-19, right as the school committee was about to take a vote, he decides to get an attorney. So now we have to pay for our attorney so they can talk to one another to negotiate what he never gave us in the first place. And I just want to make sure I'm straight with this. So now last minute, after we requested for 2.5 months, Kristen's worked very hard on that. He now hires an attorney. So now we have to spend money on 30%. I just can't wrap my head around the thought on this.
That is correct. I don't have it in front of me, but the letter just recently came in and we forwarded that to our attorney. And it was pretty recent.
Why and our attorney thinks that we should entertain anything with this?
Well, my understanding is we should come to an agreement, and they have not agreed to the 30%.
Well, they don't have to.
Right? Correct.
So
from the contract that we talked about, you are correct.
okay. I would like to hear other members' thoughts about this. So now we're paying our attorney out of our budget to negotiate against another attorney now on something that I thought the subcommittee already agreed to. So any other thoughts from any other members?
And just so you know, to make it clear, just to clarify, we have not seen a proposal from his attorney yet. That's supposedly coming this week.
Well, he hasn't provided us with anything to show what expenses he has. So if we're going to sit there and negotiate a price on this, we need something in return to show what those numbers are.
Correct.
Which is what he just sent his attorney to now tell our attorney what it is. But it's literally at the 11:59th hour here. And that's my challenge with this whole thing of agreeing to any of this is that he had plenty of time, and unfortunately we have to make very hard decisions. Actually, we already have for next year. And even the things that we had to do for this year. And I don't think it's fair for us to deplete any more funds that we've had set aside for this year to go towards an attorney for something like this. And that's just my opinion.
I agree with you, Sarah. I'm not really sure why it's gotten to the point where there's attorneys at the table when, Kristen, you did a fantastic job along with your colleagues from other districts trying to negotiate something that was fair. You were more than patient with the bus company to try to allow them the time and the space to provide the information we had been asking for. So I'm with you, Sarah. I find it hard to swallow that now we're going to be having to pay out an attorney to continue negotiations on something like this. I don't know. Would love to hear other thoughts.
Right.
I agree with you guys. As you know, Sarah, I'm on the same plane as you. I read the correspondence that was sent forward to us from whoever those people were that he got. Some of the stuff they outlined, expenses of keeping the buses at a certain spot. It doesn't cost him anything to keep the buses because they're garaged at our facility, so it's not costing him that. He has no drivers right now. He laid everybody off. I know some of the drivers. I've asked questions, and they're all laid off. His expenses, we changed the contract. So when we first had the contract with him years back, we made him have the buses be 5 years or newer. So that means he probably had a lot of loans out on some of those buses. I think the last contract, we changed it. We went out to 9 years, I believe, on how late he could hold his buses. So he probably doesn't have that much of an expense because I'm sure he didn't go out and buy buses because he bought himself another 4 years in his contract that he could have held on to the buses instead of going out and buying. His insurance has gone down because everyone's insurance has gone down. Just regular people's insurance has gone down because the buses aren't going out. So he's got a big cost savings there. I'm just not looking, and I hate to sound this way, but I'm just not looking to give him 50%. So he can keep his family employed at the place and no one's doing nothing, and we're just giving him money for getting no services from him. I'm sorry. And we gave him plenty of opportunities to give us the information, and he just didn't want it. And I think when he finally realized that we were serious about the 30%, I think that's when he realized he had to go out and get an attorney, because he realized we weren't going to back down from that. So I do agree with you guys. I don't want to back down. I think we gave him every opportunity and he didn't take it. And I'm sorry.
And it's well documented. Kristen really did very well with keeping everything, all the communication with all the other districts, as well as the communication directly with him, you know, and again, no correspondence at all from this bus company. And, you know, I think we have a very good case, you know, if something were to come about it, that we did our due diligence and we're done. That's it. But that's, again, that's my opinion.
And again, I just want to reiterate, this was, you know, on the advice of our legal counsel, that he has not seen a proposal in writing, but should he get something with numbers that we haven't seen yet, he wanted to know if there was any wiggle room. And I said I would bring it up to the committee tonight. Because he said technically that's how this happens, usually is a negotiation between the parties, and technically we should have something in writing. Is that correct, Mrs. Flynn? That you know of, right?
I believe that's what you said, Attorney Watt told you.
Yes. So
I'm just going to ask the committee. I completely support what everyone is saying. So my only question for the committee is, are you all hard set on the 30%, or do we have any flexibility to leave, you know, Attorney Waugh and you know, Dr. Bailey, to give them a 5% difference, that we may say, you know, we're going to go between 30 and 35, but 35's it, or is it, nope, we're set at 30? That's the only, you know, it's my only, if the attorney is asking us to be possibly, you know, let him review the documentation that he's going to get, and then if the two of them, do we give them any wiggle room to go up to 35, or are you all hard set at 30? I mean, I would be comfortable at 35, Dr. Bailey, but no more than that. I'm not doing a 50%. I'm not doing a 40%. But if Attorney Waugh is asking for a 5% wiggle room, I would be willing to do it, but it's at the will of the committee.
And I just want to clarify, he didn't necessarily say 5%.
Okay.
He just said, you know, in the ballpark.
Okay.
And I gave that as an example.
Okay.
I just need to know which way to go, because I have to let him know after tonight's meeting, because I'm assuming you're gonna take a vote on this either way. I think we need to.
I'm just taken back with, you know, now we're paying our attorney $150 or $200 an hour, or whatever he gets now. You know, I'm at the point right now, it's all right, if we're gonna hire an attorney, a professional, let's say 25, let's have him make his money and start negotiating down from this. I'm really fit to be tied with this whole thing. I think, you know, 30% is absolutely fair. I think we've done a lot of work. I mean, Kristen is on salary and she has spent a lot of time, you know, going back and forth. And sometimes I think she's more efficient than most of the attorneys that I know. And I just think that now getting Andy involved and having to pay him is just, we're just wasting money. And that's, again, my opinion. I would not want to go past 30%. And if Andy wants to jump in, if Paula, you feel that he can get us lower, then maybe it is worth it. But other than that, not a cent more than 30.
Okay. It is disappointing that it came down to this. I must agree with Mrs. Gomes. I think it's in the relationship that we've had with Amaril's over decades. It's very disappointing that it's come down to this. I agree. Okay, so we're making a vote?
Yep, I'm with
Okay.
Sarah on this.
I mean, I'd like to make a motion to keep the 30% that the budget subcommittee initially agreed to, or lower. Let's leave it at that. And whatever, Paula, you feel is necessary to do with the attorney, I think is up to you. But that's the motion that I'd like to put on the table.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay.
Thank you. That's helpful. So at least I can move forward with it.
Thank you, Paula. And
Mhm.
Thank
Kristen
you.
for all the work.
Yes. Agree. Okay, so Mrs. Flynn, that wrapped up your section.
That's it.
Okay, so school committee member reports. We did the Pride Awards. So Mrs. Downing, you have something on here for school committee members recognition.
Yes, I do. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I just wanted to take a moment on behalf of the committee to thank you both, Mrs. Tavares and Mr. Deterra, for your dedicated service to the Acushnet Public Schools. Mrs. Tavares, you have served as a member of the school committee since 2015 and as our chair over the last year. And Mr. Deterra, you've been our veteran member, serving on the committee since 2008. Some may not realize this, but serving on a school committee is a volunteer position, and it is one that really requires a tremendous amount of time, thought, and commitment. And you have both gone above and beyond during your tenure as school committee members here in Acushnet. You have never taken the job lightly and have really led in a way that has always put the interests of our students and the long-term improvement of our schools first. So we're really going to miss working with you, but we wish you all the best as you move on to new things. And thank you again for your services and all of your many contributions to the Acushnet Public Schools.
And I'd like to add, as the superintendent, if I may, I just appreciate your support. Both of you have been extremely supportive since I came into the district, and extremely supportive to the children and families in this district. And I see the amount of time that you both put in to this district. So it's very much appreciated. And it's, it's bittersweet, sad to see you go, but happy that you're starting another chapter. So thank you so much for all of your volunteer hours with this committee and all of your hard work.
I just would like to say that I couldn't be more excited. I really could not be more excited and happy for the district. I'm just proud of where we are, where we're going, where we've come from. I am so excited, and I am so excited to walk through the property and see how beautiful it looks, and to know that Dr. Bailey and all of you are leaving. I'm leaving it in great hands. So I just want you all to know that. I'm so excited, and I'm always a phone call away. Just let me know.
Thank you.
I feel the same as Jody. I just wish the remaining 3 and the 2 new members good luck. It's probably in my opinion, it's the toughest position in the town, toughest committee to be on. You always got a bullseye on you. People are always, don't agree with you. But I did have a conversation with Jody about a month back when we both decided what we were going to do. And I basically told her, I said, all our decisions were made in the best interest of the children. So we leave with our heads held high, because for 12 years that I've been on, I've always based my decision on what was best for the kids. And there might be some people out there that didn't agree with it, but I took the data that I was given, I did some research, I spoke with people in the system, and that's how I came to my conclusions. So I know I can walk away. It's in a good spot. I think we're heading in the right direction. And I think I can walk away with some self-accomplishment and some good experiences. And I think everybody that I worked with along the way, and I wish all you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Ditto. All right, so contracts. So we are going into executive session, Dr. Bailey, right, at this time, to come back into open session to discuss to vote on the outcome of our executive session discussion.
Right, so there'll be no vote in executive session. It'll just be a discussion regarding the units for cafeteria, secretaries, and paraprofessionals.
Yep, and then we'll come back into open session. So anybody watching, we will be taking a break, going into executive session, and then we will be coming back live to make the votes on those contracts. Okay.
Can you take a vote to go into executive session right now?
Absolutely. So can I have a motion to go into executive session and to return into open session?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We shall return. Are we all back? Oh, Paula, you're on mute. Dr. Bailey.
Mrs. Gomes, I think we're still waiting on Mrs. Gomes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I make my screen smaller so I can see my agenda.
No problem.
Here she comes.
Okay, so I think we are all back now. All right, so can I have a motion to re-adjourn the regular session school committee minutes meeting of June 16th?
Motion.
I'm gonna do a roll call just to make sure that we're all still here. Mrs. Gomes,
Here.
Mrs. Sumner, Mr. Sumner,
Yes.
Mr. DeTerra. Okay, and Mrs. Downing.
Here.
Okay, all right, so we are all here. So we just had our executive session and we discussed 3 contracts that we are going to bring to a vote tonight. So we're gonna start off with the cafeteria contract. So unless there's any other further discussion, can I have a motion to approve the 2019-2022 cafeteria workers contract as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Second.
Okay, and we're gonna do a roll call vote. So Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. DeTerra?
Yes.
Mr. Sumner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. All right, so our second contract would be the secretarial contract. So unless there's any further discussion, can I have a motion to approve the 2019-2022 secretarial contract as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, and can I have, we're gonna do a roll call vote. So Mrs. Downing,
Yes.
Mr. Sumner,
Yes.
Mrs. Gomes,
Yes.
okay, Mr. DeTerra,
I will abstain.
okay, and I am a yes. Okay, all right, and last on the agenda is the paraprofessionals contract. So unless there's no further discussion, can I have a motion to approve the 2019-2022 paraprofessionals contract as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, can I do a roll call vote? Mrs. Downing,
Yes.
Mr. Sumner,
Yes.
Mrs. Gomes,
Yes.
Mr. DeTerra,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, so moving on, our last thing is our next school committee meeting has not been determined yet. Typically, we do take the month of July off. So we will plan to start regular meetings back in August. So please keep an eye out on the school committee website, and the regular meetings will be posted. All right, so unless there's anything else, can I have a motion to adjourn the June 16th regular school committee meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, bye guys, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.